morning. If you're joining us online, live, or on YouTube, please be sure to try out the closed captioning feature by clicking on the gear under the video and selecting one of 7 languages: Arabic, Chinese, English, Korean, Russian, Spanish, or Vietnamese. So, did you hear these various beeps just now? That's what an emergency alert signal might sound like on the radio or on television. And if this had been an actual emergency, this signal would have been followed by official information, news, or instructions. Instead, here you are on Close to Home, stories of health, tech, and resilience, where we're going to learn about emergency preparedness. My name is Lenny Orlov, and I will be your host this morning. Our guests, Carrie Brazel and Ann Forrest, will each have a total of 15 minutes to present and 5 minutes for questions. In the interest of time, we do ask that you go ahead and leave a comment right away with anything you'd like them to address, even while they're presenting. On the live show, each time we stop for the Q&A, we'll always go to the phones first, followed by as many online questions as we have time for. My City of Seattle colleagues, Michael Taylor Judd and Harrison Lee, will gather all your questions and pass them along to our guests, who will either respond on the live broadcast or in the YouTube comments. You'll also get the presenter's contact information in case you wanted to reach out directly. And with any questions related to aging or disability, we encourage you to call 1-844-348-5464 and speak to a Community Living Connections advocate. They can help locate a wide range of resources, including food and meals. The call is free, interpretation is available upon request, and services offered are professional, confidential, and most are also free. Again, that number is 1-844-348-5464. You may also visit them on the web at communitylivingconnections.org. It's not case sensitive, to see the list of participating organizations in the network and learn more about their full range of services. Again, communitylivingconnections.org. If you're new to our YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button and the bell to be notified when Age Friendly Seattle's virtual events and other videos are uploaded. This programming is offered as one of the ways to help older adults stay connected to and be informed about community and government resources during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're live with Close to Home or the Civic Coffee Hour every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Time, except for the 5th Thursday of the month. Special events in collaboration with other departments and organizations also take place periodically. And all of our online programs are accessible from the same virtual event hub at bit.ly/age-friendly-live. No spaces, but each word is capitalized. Visit anytime to find information on upcoming events and a playlist with all the previous episodes with subtitles in 7 languages. So, first up on Close to Home is Carrie Brazel. Carrie is OEM's volunteer coordinator, and strategic advisor. Carrie, thank you so much for being here today. Please remember to unmute your microphone. You are now live on Close to Home.
Thank you so much, Lenny, and Harrison and Michael and Age Friendly Seattle for having Ann and I on today. It's impossible to think that we could get excited to talk about disasters in the middle of a pandemic, but disasters and emergencies are going to continue to happen. So we, as an office, that's what we do. We help the community get prepared for awful things, for challenging times. So today I'm going to talk briefly just about a few products and tools that we have, and hopefully in the future we can come back and talk about other preparedness opportunities. So today we're going to talk about, and Lenny, if you will go to the next slide, we're going to cover our community preparedness survey, our Hello Neighbor card, and Alert Seattle. So before I dive into these three topics, I wanted to give you a very brief overview of what is the Seattle Office of Emergency Management. And the Seattle Office of Emergency Management is responsible for managing and coordinating the city's resources and responsibilities in dealing with all aspects of emergencies and disasters. So all of the community planning, all the citywide community planning that goes into that to help prepare us for and up to a major earthquake. That a lot of folks that have read articles and know that we are definitely, that is our largest threat to the area, but also things that happen every winter, and down trees and windstorms and snowstorms, and things like the viaduct coming down or the current emergency that we're in, the very, very challenging times that we're in now. We play a big part. The West Seattle Bridge, for instance, for all of you that live in West Seattle or around West Seattle like myself, know what a challenging time that is too. So we partner with the community to prepare, respond, mitigate the impacts of, and recover from disasters. And the group that I'm with, part of Community Affairs and Public Education, our charge and commitment is to work with the community to educate, provide training, provide resources and information that better prepare you to survive any number of events. We'll go to the next slide. So right now we're doing a community preparedness survey, and it will be closing at the end of the month. And it's been available through several social media mediums, but also I can provide the link as well. The link is here, but it'll be provided to you in subsequent slides. So we're asking the community to take a short survey about your experience during the COVID pandemic. We realize that we are still very much in the middle of the pandemic, and there's chances that we'll be in phase 2 for quite some time. There's a chance that we could go into phase 3 and go back into phase 2. So you've seen how this has played out through the rest of the country. We want to learn more about what the impacts are truly to our community, so we can help people be more prepared in the future. It can influence the types of ways that we reach folks to do training, to do preparedness. A lot of our work is really like Lenny as well. A lot of our work is really in person in the community. So we have had to adapt a lot, and we're learning along with the community on how best to reach you. So we would really appreciate anybody taking the survey and helping to amplify the opportunity to take the survey and reflect on a few things. Did you take any general preparedness actions prior to COVID-19 pandemic? And if so, were those actions helpful to you and your loved ones during COVID? What actions do you wish you would have taken prior to the COVID-19 pandemic? And what actions will you take now to ensure you're more prepared in the future? So we really appreciate any helpful insight and information, And this will definitely help us inform future programming and messaging. And just so you know, that it is available in 13 different languages, and it should take no more than five minutes to complete. If for some reason you have trouble appropriately accessing the survey, we will be providing our phone number and our email at the end, and our office can assist you in completing that survey. Okay, next slide. All right, so Hello Neighbor cards. This is relatively new, and this was definitely born out of COVID-19. And while we realize that people have been connecting with each other for several months now, but that we've realized that a tool may be helpful. We worked with the hubs and we worked with other departments. So we created a really basic card that will be, it's being disseminated into small businesses throughout the city. We're working with some local grocers, coffee shops, places that people are definitely frequenting. So really, as we move into the last days of summer and possibly dealing with some heat-related issues, I mean, knock on wood, I hope we have a couple more weeks of summer. My tomatoes still need some sun. And it may require that older adults or people with like existing health conditions stay at home. And for folks that have been truly quarantining, will need to continue to receive that sort of assistance. So, so many people staying at home could really use a helping hand, and we felt like this tool could potentially be of assistance. So if you haven't reached out to your neighbors that you think may need extra help, this card will be available distributed throughout Seattle. It's in relatively small quantity at this time. We want to see what the response is like. But if you're interested in either helping to deliver some of these cards, or at least you'll know what the visual is when you do go to the grocery store, or if you're somebody that needs help, be aware that these are being distributed in the neighborhood. These are also available in several languages, and we really hope that they can be utilized, and a little bit goes a long way. Okay, next slide. And finally, we always, and Anne knows this, and Lenny is aware of this as well, we always plug Alert Seattle. So Alert Seattle is we realize that the show is going to reach further than just the city of Seattle and into King County. But if you're traveling through Seattle, if you visit Seattle often, if you work in Seattle, if you have loved ones in Seattle, or if you live in Seattle, we really recommend that you sign up for Alert Seattle. It's our alert and warning system. It will be used. It will be used in conjunction with larger alert systems, the WEA system, wireless emergency alerts. But this is our system that we use for anything between, major traffic disruptions, snow issues, snow-related issues. We've used it a lot for COVID. We will use it for any sort of, there's been gas leaks. If you've received alerts, for those of you, there will be targeted alerts sent to people that live in specific areas. It's a really amazing tool, and you can opt in to several different groups, including traffic. If you're interested in learning more about emergency preparedness and classes and trainings, you can opt in to as many things as you'd like. It will be used during disasters, and it is currently being used every Friday. We are sending out a COVID Alert Seattle that includes updated information and information on resources that are available. So the link is here, but the link will also be available to you on the final page. And next slide. So Alert Seattle is really easy to sign up for, alert.seattle.gov, and it is run through 911, but it is a one page. So you will come to this landing page here, and it will ask you for your first name and your last name, email, user ID, password, phone number, and then you can do a group code if you'd like. And then you agree to the terms, and it'll give you an option of what you want to opt into. So at that point, you're already opted into emergency alerts, but then you can opt into other groups as you see fit. And next page. And really that is my brief overview of how you can take steps today to get connected to Office Emergency Management and to better prepare yourself. I think one of the best things that you can do is stay informed and connect with your neighbors. Anne will talk more about the program that she's connected to, and Anne is also a volunteer with our office and does a lot of this preparedness work. And I think overall, we would say your social capital and information is your best defense in any kind of stressful event, all the way up to an earthquake. So please sign up for Alert Seattle. King County also has an alert system you can look into, and then stay informed. And we are very much online. We have our website is full of great information, but also connect with people. Anne's going to talk about the Hub community, the Hub network, and that's a great way to stay connected and to build your social capital. And I just really appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Anytime that we can help folks get better prepared, we know that we've taken the next step. So you can reach me, myself, Lenny will provide you with my information, but also here is all the information that you can use. Our main phone, and that will be the phone number that you can use if you are finding that the survey is giving you some trouble. Our office email, our website, alert.seattle.gov is how you sign up. We also have a YouTube page. We think that we have some clever videos there, so please check those out. Our Facebook and Twitter. I also wanted to provide, and this is more for the Seattle only area, but it does give links to Washington State and King County. The mayor's COVID-19 site is updated consistently. And then if you would like to text and sign up for Alert Seattle to our Alert Seattle COVID alerts, you can do that by texting COVID Seattle to the number 67283, and you'll be receiving those Friday weekly updates. And I hope at some point we don't have to have updates anymore, but it looks like for definitely for several months now, we're going to continue to provide updates and give you the most current information that we have. And that's really it today. And I just really appreciate your time. And please, if you have any questions, I'm available, and so is my team. And we hope to see, we're going to be having several online webinars and opportunities to plug in. And Anne will probably mention our SNAP program later as well. Please stay connected to the Seattle Office of Emergency Management, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, Lenny.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. We appreciate you. Give us an overview of Office of Emergency Management, OEM. Yeah, these cards, every time I would be at an outreach event, I would have the Alert Seattle card with me and available. I think it's an important service, and I didn't actually realize that it's being used weekly for COVID right now, which is really great. Let's see. I am looking at our phone lines. It doesn't look like there's any questions there. I do have a question myself that I'd like to ask. And while I do that, I'm going to encourage our viewers online and on the phones to please, if you're on the phone, then kind of think of a question. And if you're online, go ahead and type it in, a question or comment, maybe feedback or suggestion for Carrie and Office of Emergency Management. My question is, Carrie, is you know how I played those sounds at the beginning of the broadcast, and that's something that I'm accustomed to hearing on the radio maybe on a television program. Now that so many people, including this program, are online, if there were an emergency happening right now, would there, I mean, how would that work? You know, would there be, I know if you're listening to a radio station on an app, for example, you would still hear it, most likely. But what about a web-only kind of thing?
Yeah, so when I spoke about, good question, great question. I think that so those wireless emergency alerts are the ones that will be through Alert Seattle as well. You will receive a message on your, it goes out to all cell devices. So anyone that has a cell phone would be receiving that. And that would be pretty immediate. And then, you know, other systems will follow. So radio, TV, it just really honestly depends on what the disruption is. So if for some reason there's disruption to cell towers, and in no situation is everything going to fail. So that's the good news. But cell is really reliable. And if cell towers go down, there's other cell towers, and they're easier to fix as well. So they may be bogged down, and when we had the Seahawks victory parade, people weren't able to call in or call out, but we know that it is relatively a safe bet that you will receive an alert. So you'll get a wireless emergency alert. You will hear it on radio. You'll hear it on TV. You'll also get an Alert Seattle for those that are opted in. And then there would be, like, on all the City of Seattle websites, there would be front page. It would have it would basically take over. The emergency pages would take over. So, and I think that you would see, you know, when you've seen tragic events happen in other cities where people are marking themselves safe, social media is a really, you know, if we have internet, we have self-service, it's a really great way to stay informed, but ensure that you're getting the right information. Don't always trust everything that you're reading on social media. That goes without saying, of course, but that is a great tool as well.
All right, thank you, Carrie. So it looks like we have a couple of questions that came through, and so I'm going to turn it over to Harrison for those. And I'm wondering if we could maybe start with the question about the King County alert system. Here we go.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a question here from Karen, and that says, can you say more about the county's alert system? Does it have the same features?
Yes, it does. And I failed to have the address for that right now. But yes, it operates in the absolute same way. You can opt in to the system. It just goes out to all cities within there. So in smaller cities aren't going to have their own system. Seattle is such a large city, so we needed one specifically for us. And much of King County, it can be rural. As we know, we live in the city and we don't face the same types of disasters sometimes and issues. So we had to have a separate system. So I am looking right now, and I apologize. It's called Alert King County. And it's a free service. And so if you Google Alert King County, you'll be able to find that and sign up for that as well.
All right. Thank you, Carrie. We have time for one more question. And Harrison, how about the one about the landline?
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm just taking a look at that right now. It says, what, if any, are the benefits of keeping my landline phone in addition to my cell phone?
Great question. So I feel like Anne could answer this better because she said it probably 300,000 times. If you truly have an old school landline, and I'm talking copper wire landline, you know, you're in a house that's old and it still has that plug, and you're like, kids are like, what is that thing? Then it is beneficial. Some people feel really strongly about keeping it because it will be the only type of phone, most likely that can work to call out. Most landlines today are really voice over IP, so it's part of internet. So it's when the internet goes down, in your landline, what we think is a landline is really is bundled with your Comcast or whatever service. So if you have the old school landline, emergency preparedness purists would say hang on to it. What we have found, though, is that there aren't a lot of companies providing service to those. It's less and less. So if you currently have a service, it's probably very inexpensive. Go ahead and keep it. Really, voice over internet, personally, I think your cell phone is probably a better bet. Hope that answers your question. I can always expand on that if you want more information.
Thank you, Carrie. We're going to be moving on. Thank you for being here, Carrie, and talking to us about the Office of Emergency Management and about various alert systems. If you have additional questions, feel free to still put them into the chat now or later when we upload this video to YouTube. Leave them in the comment, or if you're already watching on YouTube, we'll pass it along to Carrie and we'll get a response. So again, thanks, Carrie. In a little bit here, we're going to hear from Anne about the community's role in emergency preparedness while we're in this global pandemic situation. And Carrie just talked about the city's COVID-19 webpage. There's another resource. It's available in 22 languages. That list keeps growing every week that I show this on Close to Home. And the webpage is coronavirus.wa.gov. This is the Washington State's coronavirus response website, and according to it, staying home is still safest. And to ensure our state's safe start is successful, we're encouraged to stay as close to home as possible. But if you must go out, to please continue social distancing, wearing facial coverings, which are now required statewide in public settings. Coronavirus.wa.gov has all the latest information on the state's response to COVID-19. And you can also call Washington Department of Health Assistance Hotline, and that number is 1-800-525-0127. Again, 1-800-525-0127. Earlier in this broadcast, we talked about all of Age Friendly Seattle's weekly virtual events. I'd like to remind you all that next Thursday, August 20th, is the third Thursday of the month, which means the weekly Close to Home is off and the monthly Civic Coffee Hour is on. This event has been running for over a decade and has featured mayors and other government decision makers. In 2020, the Seattle Public Library has agreed to partner with us on these coffee hours, even before they were actually virtual like this. Next week, we'll hear about Seattle Public Library's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. They're actually a guest on our show. This is a plan they call a road to reopening. Our guests will be the library's executive director and chief librarian, Marcellus Turner, as well as our regular contributor, Nancy Sloat, who is usually on before every coffee hour for a couple of minutes to talk about SPL's updates that have come up over the month. And Nancy is SPL's Older Adult Program Manager. To join, you'd go to the same virtual events hub at bit.ly, age-friendly live, no spaces, each word is capitalized, just like you did today. And keep in mind, coffee and other hot beverages are not included in the virtual format, unlike when we used to do it in person, but they're strongly encouraged, as is your civic participation. And not only yours, but your friends. So, of course, virtually or socially distanced. So do tell them about this opportunity. But right now, let us continue with close to home stories of health, tech, and resilience. Our next guest today is Ann Forrest. She's a retired United States Navy nurse and a volunteer with the Seattle Office of Emergency Management that we just heard about a few minutes ago. Ann is the chair of North Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs, which you'll hear about in a minute, and an emergency preparedness educator at North Seattle College. Ann, I'm so glad you can join us today. Please unmute your microphone. You are live on Close to Home.
Thank you very much, Lenny. I am really excited to be able to talk to this group of folks. So thank you for tuning in. Harrison, next slide, please. So we're going to talk about how Seattle prepares and the different levels of preparedness. So this is a graphic that we use to explain kind of where your resources and your support should come from after a large disaster. And you'll notice that the bottom level of that pyramid is you and your family, you and your household. And that's where most of what you're going to need after a large disaster, that's where most of it will come from. But we'll go through each of these levels and explain what each level can do. So next slide, please. So the city after a large disaster is going to be incredibly busy. They're the ones doing the search and rescue if necessary. They're the ones that will be inspecting the bridges after a large shake to make sure that they're safe to cross. They will be, like Carrie said, that we're sending out emergency messages to folks in the city to give us information about how to handle the disaster. They're coordinating with the county and the state and FEMA, the national level, for disaster management. So they are going to be very, very busy coordinating a lot of things. They're gathering information and they're trying to figure out where best to deploy their resources. And let me explain something about if a large disaster were to happen on, say, a Thursday afternoon. So there's only so many police and firefighters and EMTs on duty because we don't know when earthquakes happen. We don't staff for them. There's only a certain number of first responders available after a large disaster. And that's, you know, no different Tuesday afternoon than Thursday morning. It's all kind of the same. So the number of resources that we have on duty at any one time is pretty much what we're going to have for a while. Because the city is fairly expensive to live in. A lot of our first responders don't actually live in the city of Seattle. So their ability to come, you know, streaming into the city to come to work is really limited. So we kind of have to make do with what we have on hand. So the city does tons of planning on how to make what we have available stretch as far as they can. But just keep in mind that first responders, you know, there's only so much they can do and there's only so many of them on duty at a time. So we really need to be as self-sufficient as we can. So next slide, please. That's where your community will come in. And this is what I'm here to talk about, the emergency communication hubs. So you'll hear me say this multiple times. We do two things. We gather and share information and we match needs and resources. So I'm going to skip past the hubs because we're going to talk about that more in detail and go to the next slide. So this is the support you should be looking for and coordinating now with your neighbors, those folks that live to the right and the left of you or above you and below you if you're in an apartment building. Start getting to know those folks. Carrie did a good job of explaining exactly that. you really are going to need to depend on those folks. Your, sister-in-law 2 states away is not going to be much help. So really get to know your neighbors. There's multiple reasons to do it. It makes you a much safer community. The more tight-knit you are, the safer you are as a community. And if you ever do have to reach out after an emergency, you already have a relationship with those folks. So your ability to ask for help or to lend help is much easier and much more comfortable if you actually have a relationship. So make an effort to reach out now and get to know your neighbors. So some of the things you can do with your neighbors is just looking out for one another, knowing that 3 blocks or 3 houses down, there's a very, very old German Shepherd who has a hard time getting up, and that, their parent works, their owner works. So after a disaster, maybe you go 3 houses down and you check on that German Shepherd, or the disabled person across the street, or that 4 houses over there's a nurse, fabulous. Maybe you can look to her for some medical care. So we encourage folks to get to know their neighbors, figure out what resources are sitting there around you, and then lean on one another after a large disaster. And then the last level, the you and your family. This is where Seattle really strongly encourages folks to have as much emergency supplies in your house as you have space for. So, I don't know about you, but I ran out of toilet paper in this crazy pandemic thing. So I have learned I need to store more toilet paper in my house. We have as much medication as we can get through insurance, and we have it tucked away. We have as much water as we can possibly store. We do have some emergency food set aside. All this stuff you really need to have in your home. There are not stores and stores of water and food for the folks living in Seattle. Seattle tried that one time, 10, 20, 30 years ago. I'm not sure the history. They tried it. We never needed it because we didn't have a disaster, and it went bad. So we have learned since then that we are a much stronger community, pushing folks to get to know their neighbors and rely on one another than this idea of we're just, as a city, we're going to stockpile food and water. We've just learned through experience and through research, it does not work. So we are encouraging folks to put away as much water and food as you can, ideally to last 2 weeks. That is really difficult for a lot of people, especially if they are strapped for cash or really have space concerns. That's probably more than anything, is the space. So do what you can. Anything is better than nothing. If you can't put aside 10 gallons of water, then put aside 3 or 4. Do as much as you can to make yourself as ready as you can. So next slide, please. So we're gonna talk about the hubs, that second level right below the city. So what is a hub? A hub is just a space somewhere in the city where people are going to naturally gather after a large disaster, especially an earthquake. After let's say we're all at home and the house starts shaking. Once it's done, we are going to naturally go outside. We are social creatures. As much as we try and hide behind our, TV screens and all that, we are social creatures. We are headed outside, and we are going to look to the right and the left of us and go, holy moly, what was that? That's what we do. So people will naturally gather in these gathering spaces. Most of them are parks. Pea patches are really good. Sometimes it's the parking lot of a church. It's just kind of the natural gathering spot that a community would naturally go. It's large, it's open, there's no power lines above me, there's not lots of trees that I'm worried about, dropping branches on me. So hubs are natural gathering spots. We know this sociologically, we know this is what people do. So what the Emergency Communication Hub Network does is we put some equipment there ahead of time just to get a jump start on it. So next slide, please. Oh, so this is a map, and this is updated constantly, and it's available on the internet. Hopefully we'll get the link up there so you can check out where yours is. This is a map of the hubs in Seattle. And these are all little radio signals, and I'll explain that later. But some of them have a solid circle in the center, and some of them are hollow. The ones that are solid are networked hubs, meaning they have a hub captain, they are organized, they have a few folks in their community that are behind them, that are supporting them, that are working together to educate their community about the hub, make sure the hub works really well, and that they will be there for their community after a large disaster. The ones that are hollow in the center are just areas that we have identified are natural gathering spots, but there's not a team that's working that site yet. So that's the difference between the two icons on the map. So you can go to this map, you can find out where your closest hub is, and if there's not one near there and you're interested in starting a hub, then contact us. We have done this multiple times before. Nobody needs to recreate the wheel. We have a lot of tools and job descriptions and everything else we can hand you to make your job as simple as possible. But you need to build your community in your community. I can't build a hub in someone else's community. I'm not trusted. I don't live there. You really need to build it from the ground up. So I don't think I made this clear, but we are all volunteers doing this. We are closely connected with the city, but we are a little bit separate from the city. We work in conjunction, but we are not directed by the city. It gives us a little more flexibility and yeah. So next slide, please. I guess the next slide. There we go. Okay, so this is when I say we pre-position supplies, this is typically, if we're going to put supplies at a hub, this is typically what they look like. These are job boxes. So at a park, you would find rakes in them, or at a ball field, you would find a bunch of bats and, a big bag of soccer balls or something like that. They are very innocuous. They're all over the city and they're used for a million different things. I put the pickup truck there so you had some scale. These are not large, huge boxes. Most of them are 4, maybe 5 foot wide. So they're not ginormous. Next slide. This is a picture of my particular hub where I live in my community. It's up against the tennis court. So, I'm not sure what people would assume was in there, but I don't think they would assume anything of great value is in there. It is in a park, a city park. And the things in there are a canopy, a couple folding tables, a couple folding chairs. We have whiteboards, we have signs, we have a lot of paperwork, so forms. We have markers, we have pens, paper, all that kind of stuff. We have a bullhorn, we have some hard hats, we have some work gloves, we have safety vests. It's all equipment. It is not food and water. So one of the really valuable things about the hub, and when we talk, when we can meet in person and I open the lid, people are surprised that there's not food and water in there. They assume that because I'm working I'm working disaster preparedness in my community, that somehow I magically have a box of food and water, and I do not. So a really good talking point is, no, we are not storing food and water for you at the community level or even at the block level. That is something that we're expecting you to do for your own family, for your own household. So that's kind of what's in the hub. Next slide, please. When you open up the hub, you're going to hopefully find something like this that walks you through step by step how to set up the hub. So in our particular instance, it'll tell you where to put the canopy and where to put the tables and what to unpack next and all that. So we make this as idiot-proof as possible. For most of the hubs, most of them are either locked with a combination lock or keys, but multiple people in the community can get into that box and have been trained on how this whole system works. So it's not relying on one person to be home for that disaster to open up the box and start the thing. It is a resource that is spread out to different community members. So Next slide, please. So in the beginning, I said there's two goals for the hubs. One is to gather and share information, and the second one is to match needs and resources. So this is the gather and share information. So, you know, this is a map of the city. It is a whiteboard that we hung up on the tennis court. There's different ways of doing this. You can write the information on a piece of paper and tap it to the side of a shed. How you do it isn't important. The fact is that you put information up there. So people will come to the hub either to give us information or to get information. Next slide, please. So where do we get our information from? First of all, neighbors will come up and tell us, hey, the gas station is on fire. We also have a relationship with the fire department, and they will come by and either tell us what's going on in their world, or we will tell them what's going on in our world. We can also get information from other hubs and city officials using ham radio. The picture there is a ham radio operator who is set up at one of our hubs and can talk to the city and can talk to other hubs and get information. So ham radio, as you know, is super, super big after disasters. Next slide, please. So our second goal is to match needs and resources. And these are just a few of the ways. Every hub is a little bit different. We have not standardized this side of things. It's whatever you have. The one on the left are just their pockets behind clear plastic. And we put the paperwork that says I need something and the paperwork that says I have something. We put both that information in the same pocket, and we try and make matches between those, between the family that has diapers and the family that needs diapers. And then the one on the right is just a magnetic board. We do the same thing. I found a dog, I'm missing a dog. Let's try and hook these two people up and get them talking. Next slide, please. Two other areas in the hub is the education area. We have large posters printed up for all the hubs that, so a citizen, a community member can come up and learn about water hazards, food, communication, or sanitation, and they can get the information they need and take it back to their household. We also have an education book with a lot of other information that we have, downloaded off the internet, and we've printed it up now because Google is probably not going to be working after a big disaster. So we have a lot of education at our at the ready. And then the volunteer area, we hope that we will have a lot of folks coming up to the hub saying, my household's doing okay. I have some skills. Can I help? So we have a person that helps coordinate those volunteers. So that's another area of the hub. Next slide, please. So jobs within the hub, we have all these jobs. They're all super important. I won't go into each of them, but they all have job descriptions. We make it as easy as possible to get involved and to help out. We will do a lot of on-the-job training, and then we do a lot of training ahead of time. When we were able to meet face-to-face, we did a lot of drills. So several jobs in the hub. Anybody on this call could do any of them. Next slide, please. So here's some links to find the hub closest to you. Find out who your hub captain is and make contact. If you don't have a hub near you, contact us about starting one if you're interested. It does take social capital and it does take a little bit of work, but it is really, really enjoyable work. I would encourage you to get on our mailing list so you can find out more about what we're doing with the hubs. And then, like Carrie said, please learn more about emergency preparedness. Reach out and do as many of these virtual educational things as you can to learn more. The more you know, the better prepared you're going to be. Next slide. And there we go. We are boosting Seattle's resiliency. There's my email. Cindy Barker is the mother of all hubs. There's her email. And I'm going to stop talking, and I think we're going to go to questions. Somebody made the comment of hub for certain communities is difficult. I agree. It is. There are communities that are really struggling just to make it through the pandemic or just make it through day-to-day life. And establishing a hub is tough, but there are lots of resources. We can help a great deal. We are working really hard to reach out to communities where English is not their first language. I'm thrilled that this program is going to be has closed captioning in different languages. I think that's amazing. The Office of Emergency Management is also working extremely hard to reach out to the folks that are hardest to reach. So congrats on everybody's efforts. What other, let's see, there are many senior folks. Yes,
looks, we are over time here, so why don't we just do one question out of that list that came through? So how do you start a hub in a busy community? Why don't we do that question, and the rest we'll pose on YouTube and ask you to respond there. Is that okay?
Sure, that's perfect. Reach out. You just need to start talking to us. We have guides on what to do first. We encourage you, we guide, we provide support in any way we can. You are not alone. Just reach out and we will do our very best to help.
All right. So let's see. Maybe let's do the other question. Sorry, Harrison. I'm like taking over here, your moderator job. I won't do that again. Let's see. So what about that question? Since our audience is older adults and folks that work with them and care for them, you know, are there many senior hubs in this busy city?
I think you're asking about the folks that work in the hubs. I'm 57. I am sort of on the young side. So this was started by citizens that are older than me. I'm quickly getting to that age. It has typically been an older clientele that is working on this because it's typically people that are retired and maybe have a little spare time on their hands and kind of have that desire to give back to the community. So this is a great audience to be talking to because you are exactly the folks that we have engaged before and love working with. We are getting younger. It's really interesting to see the younger, and when I say younger, I'm talking, you know, 30s and 40s. They're coming in with a lot of tech skills that we have kind of been lacking in the past. So the fact that our clientele is getting a little bit younger is amazing. But there is tons for everyone to do. We really have a very diverse group of folks, and they're really a lot of fun to work with. So if you're at all interested in getting involved, please do. We try and make the hubs as accessible as possible. Like I said, we're working on languages and making ourselves more friendly to folks whose English is not their primary language. And we are trying really hard to reach out communities that are that are underserved. That answer the question?
Well, hopefully so. That's all we have time for today. So thank you so much, Anne. Like I said, if folks have additional questions, and if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and put that into the comments, and we'll make sure that Anne and Carrie, both of whom I'd like to thank today, will get to see those, and we'll post a response. So thank you to Seattle Office of Emergency Management and Seattle's emergency hubs. I am going to, most of all, though, thank all of you for staying a little over time, asking these questions. This is certainly a topic that can be top of mind and should be top of mind. And I'm glad we got to learn a little more about it. We appreciate you all tuning in live and checking us out on YouTube. Our channel is called Aging King County, and we would love for you to join our virtual community. And you can do that by clicking the subscribe button. That's all it takes. It's free, and that way you'll know as soon as these and other live event recordings and other videos are uploaded in our age-friendly community. Before you go, a reminder about the network of community organizations that the City of Seattle contracts with, Community Living Connections. Call them with anything related to aging or disability, including questions about emergency preparedness during the pandemic. You can reach them at 1-844-348-5464 or visit them on the web at communitylivingconnections.org. We hope that you are prepared to have a fun, safe, and healthy weekend. We look forward to seeing you and your friends at the next Age Friendly Seattle virtual event.